Opening: the calculator with 0 kills, midnight to 4:30. They called him Calculator. Not because Corporal Danny Chen was good at math, though he was. MIT graduate, applied physics degree, could solve differential equations in his head while most people struggled with basic algebra. They called him Calculator because the other Marine Scout snipers in his platoon thought he spent too much time calculating and not enough time shooting. "Chun, you gonna take the shot or solve another equation?" Staff Sergeant Mike Reeves would say, not even trying to hide his contempt. The other snipers would laugh. The joke never got old to them. 25 years old, Chinese American, MIT graduate, 2 years as a Marine Scout sniper, and 0 confirmed kills. 0. That number haunted Danny more than any insult, more than the nickname, more than the daily mockery from his platoon. 0 confirmed kills. For a Marine Scout sniper, one of the most elite marksmen in the military, having 0 kills after 2 deployments and 14 months in Iraq wasn't just embarrassing. It was shameful. Not because Danny Chen couldn't shoot. His qualification scores at Scout Sniper School had been near perfect. His rifle maintenance was obsessive. His fundamentals were textbook. But in combat, when it mattered, when targets appeared and opportunities emerged and other snipers were adding to their kill counts, Danny hesitated. Every single time. He'd see the target through his scope, line up the shot perfectly, begin the breathing sequence, finger moving to the trigger, and then his mind would start calculating. Wind speed, 14 kilometers per hour from the northeast. Temperature, 42 degrees Celsius. Humidity, 18%. Barometric pressure, 1,013 millibars. Distance to target, 847 meters. Bullet drop at that distance, approximately 7.8 meters. Coriolis effect accounting for Earth's rotation at this latitude. By the time Danny had worked through all the variables, by the time the mathematics were perfect, the target was gone, moved, hidden, opportunity lost. The other snipers in his platoon didn't understand. "It's instinct, Chun," Lance Corporal Jake Morrison, his spotter, had told him after the 3rd missed opportunity. "You see the bad guy. You feel the wind. You compensate. You shoot. That's it. You can't think your way to a kill." "I know," Danny had said. "I'm trying. Try less. Feel more." But Danny couldn't turn off his brain, couldn't ignore the mathematics. Every shot was a physics problem, and his MIT education had trained him to solve problems methodically, carefully, perfectly. Except perfect took time. And in combat, time meant missed opportunities. Staff Sergeant Mike Reeves had 37 confirmed kills. Jake Morrison had 12. Even the newest sniper in the platoon, Rodriguez, fresh from sniper school, had gotten his first kill within 2 weeks of arriving in Iraq. Danny Chen had 0, and everyone knew it. Last week, Danny had been walking past the platoon's common area when he'd overheard Staff Sergeant Reeves talking to the company commander. "Chen's a good Marine, sir. Disciplined. Smart as hell. But he's not a sniper. He overthinks everything. 2 deployments, 14 months in combat, 0 confirmed kills. I'm requesting we reassign him. Give his slot to someone who'll actually pull the trigger." The words had hit Danny like a punch to the gut. Because Reeves was right. Danny Chen wasn't a sniper. He was just a math nerd with a rifle who couldn't kill when it mattered. Why had he even joined the Marines? His parents, immigrants from China who'd worked brutal hours at their restaurant in San Francisco so Danny could attend good schools, had been devastated when he'd enlisted instead of taking the software engineering job at Google that was waiting for him. "You have MIT degree," his mother had cried. "Why you want to be soldier? You could make $200,000. Have good life." "I want to serve, Mom," Danny had said. "Prove that smart kids can be warriors too." Except he hadn't proven anything. He'd only proven that warriors didn't need to be smart. They needed to be instinctive, aggressive, willing to shoot first and calculate later. Danny was none of those things. Yesterday, the platoon had been cleaning weapons when Rodriguez, the new sniper who already had 3 kills, had made a joke loud enough for everyone to hear. "Hey, calculator, if you calculate the square root of your kill count, what do you get?" The platoon had gone quiet, waiting for the punchline. Rodriguez grinned. 0. Because 0 times anything equals 0. The Marines had erupted in laughter. Danny had forced a smile, pretended it didn't hurt. But it did hurt, because it was true. 2 deployments, 14 months, a degree from one of the best universities in the world, training at one of the hardest schools in the military, and 0 confirmed kills. Calculator Chen, the sniper who couldn't shoot, the nerd who thought too much. Until this morning, May 7, 2017, Mosul, Iraq. ISIS held territory when a hostage situation developed that required something impossible. A 2,180-meter shot, 1 mile and change, through urban terrain, with crosswinds, heat shimmer, at a moving target wearing a suicide vest, surrounded by 50 civilians who would die if the shot missed by even a centimeter. The kind of shot that no one in the platoon, not even Staff Sergeant Reeves with his 37 kills, had ever attempted. The kind of shot that was 96 meters farther than the longest confirmed kill in Marine Corps history. The kind of shot that couldn't be done by instinct or feel or combat experience. It required mathematics. Complex, precise, unforgiving mathematics. And suddenly, being calculator wasn't a joke anymore. It was the only chance those 50 civilians had. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to Army Story so you never miss these true tales of courage. And tell us in the comments, where are you watching from today? And have you ever been underestimated because you were too smart? That morning had started like every morning in Iraq for the past 14 months. Danny woke at 0530, cleaned his M40A5 sniper rifle, ran through maintenance checks with obsessive precision, calculated range cards for every possible firing position on their compound. The other snipers rolled out of their bunks and grabbed their weapons. No excessive maintenance, no calculations, just warriors doing what warriors did. Morning calculator, Rodriguez called out. Dream about algebra last night? Differential equations, actually, Danny replied, keeping his voice light. More laughter. Jake Morrison, Danny's spotter for the past 6 months, sat down next to him. You gotta stop letting them get to you, man. I don't let them get to me. You do. I can see it. Jake lowered his voice. Look, Danny, you're a good Marine. But maybe sniping isn't your thing. Reeves is putting in the transfer paperwork. You could go be an analyst. Use that MIT brain somewhere it matters. Sniping matters, Danny said quietly. Not if you can't pull the trigger. Danny didn't have an answer for that. At 0700, the platoon gathered for morning briefing. Staff Sergeant Reeves stood at the front of a room with a map of Mosul. Gentlemen, the Iraqi army is pushing into the old city. Heavy resistance. We're providing overwatch from elevated positions. Targets of opportunity as they present themselves. He assigned positions. The best snipers got the best spots. Buildings with clear sight lines into ISIS-controlled territory. Danny got assigned to the worst position, a roof with limited visibility. The spot they gave to the sniper they didn't trust. Questions? Reeves asked. Danny raised his hand. Staff Sergeant, the building you assigned me has significant heat shimmer during morning hours. The thermal differential between the structure and ambient air will create refractive distortion that affects ballistic trajectory. I calculated that position 7 would provide. Chen, Reeves cut him off. I don't need a physics lecture. I need snipers who can shoot. Take the position you're assigned. Yes, Staff Sergeant. Rodriguez whispered to another Marine. Calculators probably going to spend the whole day measuring wind speed instead of shooting. Danny pretended not to hear, but Jake Morrison heard. And when they were walking to their positions, Jake said, Danny, man, I gotta ask, why'd you join the Marines? You could be making bank at some tech company. Instead, you're here getting shit from guys who can barely spell their own names. I wanted to prove something, Danny said. Prove what? That being smart doesn't make you weak. That you can be a warrior and a thinker. Danny looked at Jake. My whole life, people assumed I couldn't be tough because I was good at math. Asian kid. Book smart. Parents wanted me to be a doctor or engineer. And you chose this instead. I chose to be both. Smart and tough. Except. Danny trailed off. Except you haven't proven it yet, Jake finished. Yeah. They reached their assigned position. A 3-story building with a partially collapsed roof. Not ideal, but it would do. Danny set up his rifle, calculated range cards, noted wind patterns, built his data book with obsessive detail. Jake watched him work. You know what your problem is? You're trying to make every shot perfect. But combat isn't perfect. Sometimes you just gotta shoot and trust your training. My training is mathematics, Danny said. And how's that working out for you? Danny didn't answer. Because the answer was, it wasn't working at all. Massachusetts Institute of Technology. For years earlier, 2013, Danny Chen, 21 years old, sat in the physics building working through quantum mechanics problem sets when his roommate, Tom, a pre-med student, walked in. Dude, are you seriously studying on Friday night? Finals next week, Danny said, not looking up from his equations. Danny, you have a perfect 4.0. You could skip the final and still ace the class. Come to the party. There are girls, beer, fun. Remember fun? Danny had looked at his roommate, at the easy confidence, the social skills, the assumption that parties mattered more than problem sets. I'm good, Danny had said. After Tom left, Danny had returned to his equations. This was what he was good at. Numbers, physics, problems with correct answers. Not parties, not socializing, not the easy confidence that people like Tom had. 6 months later, watching the news coverage of the Boston Marathon bombing, watching first responders run toward danger while everyone else ran away, Danny had felt something shift inside him. He'd spent his entire life being the smart kid, the one who studied while others partied, the one who solved equations while others played sports. But when real danger came, people didn't need equations. They needed courage. Danny Chen could solve differential equations. But could he run toward danger? That summer, after graduation, he'd walked into a Marine Corps recruiting office. The recruiter, a tough-looking staff sergeant with scars and a 1,000-yard stare, had looked at Danny's MIT degree and laughed. Son, you know you could be making 6 figures in Silicon Valley, right? Why the hell would you want to be a Marine? Because I want to prove I'm more than just smart, Danny had said. The recruiter had studied him for a long moment. Marine Corps doesn't care if you're smart. We care if you can shoot, move, and communicate. We care if you'll stand and fight when everyone else runs. You think you can do that? Yes, Staff Sergeant. Why? Because intelligence without courage is just theory. I want to prove I have both. The recruiter had smiled slightly. All right, MIT. Let's see if you can back that up. Boot camp had been brutal. Danny's body wasn't built for it. Skinny, 5'8", more comfortable with textbooks than push-ups. But he'd survived, graduated, became a Marine. Then Scout Sniper School. Even harder. Most candidates quit. Danny had used mathematics to excel, calculated wind drift with precision, studied ballistics until he understood every variable. He'd graduated near the top of his class. Everyone had expected him to be an incredible sniper. But in combat, when real human targets appeared, Danny had discovered something terrifying. Killing wasn't a math problem. It was a psychological threshold he couldn't cross. Every time he lined up a shot on an enemy fighter, his mind would flood with equations. But underneath the math was hesitation, was doubt, was the knowledge that this trigger pull would end a human life. And while Danny hesitated, the target would move. Opportunity lost. 0 confirmed kills. Present day. Mosul. The radio crackled at 0847. All sniper teams, this is command. We have a developing situation in Sector 7. ISIS fighter has taken approximately 50 civilians hostage in a market square. He's wearing what appears to be a suicide vest. Stand by for updates. Danny looked through his spotting scope toward Sector 7. It was far, at the absolute edge of his visual range. Jake, can you see it? Danny asked. Jake adjusted the high-powered spotting scope. Barely. It's... Jesus, Danny, it's got to be over 2 clicks away. 2 kilometers. Over a mile. I see him, Jake continued. One military-age male, center of the square, definitely wearing a vest. Looks like he's got a detonator in his hand. Civilians all around him. Maybe 50 people. On their knees. Women and kids in the group. Danny felt his stomach tighten. This was bad. The radio crackled again. All units, ISIS fighter is making demands. Wants safe passage out of Mosul. Says if we don't comply in 30 minutes, he detonates. We have Iraqi army ground units 10 minutes out, but if they approach, he'll likely blow himself up. We need options. Staff Sergeant Reeves came over the radio. Command, this is Reeves. I've got eyes on target from position 3. Range to target is stand by for calculation. Danny was already doing the math in his head. He pulled out his laser rangefinder, aimed carefully at the market square. 2,180 meters. His breath caught. Reeves came back on the radio. Command, range to target is 2,180 meters. That's over a mile. Too far for any sniper shot. Recommend drone strike. Negative, Reeves. Target is surrounded by civilians. Drone strike would kill everyone. What about ground assault? 10 minutes to get troops there, sir. He'll see them coming and detonate before they arrive. Danny was staring at the numbers on his rangefinder. 2,180 meters. The longest confirmed kill in Marine Corps history was 2,084 meters. This shot would be 96 meters farther, through urban terrain, with crosswinds, heat shimmer, moving target, surrounded by civilians. Impossible. Command, this is Reeves. I don't have a solution. The shot is beyond maximum effective range for any of my snipers. Danny's mind was racing. 2,180 meters. Wind speed approximately 15 kilometers per hour from the east. Temperature 43 degrees. Humidity low. Barometric pressure. Danny, Jake whispered. You're calculating. Yeah. Stop. It's impossible. No one can make that shot. Someone has to try. Danny, you've never made a kill. Ever. You want your first kill to be a world record attempt with 50 lives on the line. Danny looked through his scope at the civilians, at the children crying, at the mothers holding their kids, at the ISIS fighter's finger on the detonator. If nobody tried, they all died. If someone tried and missed, they all died. The outcome was the same, unless the shot was possible. Danny's hands moved on autopilot. He pulled out his data book, started writing equations. Wind speed, temperature, humidity, distance, bullet weight, muzzle velocity, ballistic coefficient, Coriolis effect, Yevbush effect, spin drift. What are you doing? Jake asked, calculating the shot. Danny. It's possible, Jake. Mathematically, it's possible. Difficult, but possible. Danny finished his calculations, looked at the numbers, felt his heart pounding. Then he picked up his radio. Command, this is Corporal Chen. I can take the shot. Silence on the radio. Then Reeves. Chen, did you just say you can take the shot? Yes, Staff Sergeant. I'm in position with line of sight to target. Range 2,180 meters. I've calculated the trajectory. It's mathematically possible. Corporal Chen, command cut in. You're talking about a shot that's 96 meters farther than the Marine Corps record. In combat conditions. With hostages. Yes, sir. I'm aware. What's your confidence level? Danny looked at his calculations, at the impossible variables, at the 50 civilians who would die if he didn't try. 65%, sir. Another long pause. Then, Corporal, your service record shows 0 confirmed kills. Danny closed his eyes. Of course, they'd bring that up. The shame, the failure, the proof that Calculator Chen couldn't actually shoot. That's correct, sir. 0 confirmed kills. And you want to attempt a world record shot. Sir, if I don't try, those civilians have 0% chance of survival. 65% is better than 0. Reeves came on the radio. Command, I strongly advise against this. Chen has never made a kill. This shot requires. It requires mathematics, Staff Sergeant, Danny interrupted. Which is what I do. I calculate. That's what you all call me, right? Calculator. The radio went silent. Then command, Corporal Chen, you are authorized to attempt the shot. All other units, stand by as backup. Chen, you've got one chance. Don't miss. Roger that, sir. Danny set down the radio. His hands were shaking. Jake stared at him. Danny, you know if you miss, 50 people die. I know. And if you hit, Danny looked at his calculations, at the impossible math, at the shot that no one believed he could make. If I hit, I finally proved that being smart doesn't make you weak. He settled into position behind his M40A5 sniper rifle and prepared to take the impossible shot. Danny Chen had spent 2 years being mocked for calculating too much. Now 50 lives depended on those calculations being perfect. He opened his data book, reviewed every variable. Distance, 2,180 meters, 2,382 yards. Wind, easterly at 15 kilometers per hour, 9.3 miles per hour, gusting to 20 kilometers per hour. Temperature, 43 degrees Celsius, 109 degrees Fahrenheit. Humidity, 12%. Barometric pressure, 1,013 millibars. Altitude, 223 meters above sea level. Target, moving approximately 0.3 meters per second random movement. Time of day, 0854 local. High sun angle, heat shimmer significant. The math was complex. Most snipers relied on ballistic calculators or pre-made data cards. But Danny had learned to do it in his head, a skill that made him weird at sniper school, but might save lives today. First, bullet drop. At 2,180 meters, with 175 grain M118LR ammunition, muzzle velocity 2,580 feet per second. The bullet would drop approximately 16.8 meters, 55 feet, from line of sight to impact. Danny would need to aim almost 60 feet above his target's head. Second, wind drift. 15 km/h crosswind from the east. At 2,180 meters, that would push the bullet approximately 4.2 meters, 13.7 feet, to the west. Danny would need to aim 13 feet to the left of his target. Third, Coriolis effect. Earth's rotation affects long-distance shots. At this latitude 36 degrees north in distance, the Coriolis effect would push the bullet approximately 0.15 meters, 6 inches, to the right. Compensate by aiming slightly more left. Fourth, spin drift. The bullet's right-hand spin causes drift. At 2,180 meters, approximately 0.4 meters, 16 inches, to the right. More leftward compensation needed. Fifth, Yevbush effect. Shooting east to west adds a vertical component from Earth's rotation. Small, but measurable at extreme distance. Approximately 0.08 meters additional drop. Aim slightly higher. Sixth, temperature and humidity effects on air density. Hot, dry air is less dense. Bullet will travel slightly farther with less drop. Reduces bullet drop by approximately 0.3 meters at this distance. Compensate aim point. Seventh, mirage and heat shimmer. Visual distortion from heat rising off the ground. Target appears higher than actual position by approximately 0.2 meters. Aim lower to compensate. Danny worked through every calculation, wrote numbers in his data book, double-checked his math. Jake watched in amazement. You're really doing this in your head? I have to. There's no calculator that accounts for all these variables simultaneously. How long do we have? Danny checked his watch. 12 minutes until the terrorist's deadline. That's not much time. It's enough. The shot is possible, Jake. The math works. Math working and you making the shot are two different things. Danny knew that. Knew that he'd calculated perfect shots before and still hesitated. Still missed opportunities. But this time was different. This time, 50 people would die if he hesitated. This time, the mockery, the shame, the 0 confirmed kills. All of it would be worth something if he could just pull the trigger when it mattered. Danny looked through his scope, made his final calculations. Final aim point. 16.8 meters above target bullet drop, 4.7 meters left of target, wind plus Coriolis plus spin drift, adjusted for temperature and mirage. The target, the ISIS fighter with the suicide vest, appeared as a tiny figure in his scope, smaller than a thumbnail, just a blur of pixels at extreme magnification. Around him, 50 civilians, men, women, children, on their knees, praying. One shot, one chance. Danny's breathing was controlled. 4 seconds in, hold. 6 seconds out, repeat. His heart rate slowed. The world narrowed to just him and the target and the mathematics, connecting them across 2,180 meters. Range confirmed at 2,180 meters, Jake said quietly, watching through the spotting scope. Wind still easterly at 15 clicks. Target is pacing, moving approximately 0.3 meters per second. I see him, Danny said. His finger moved to the trigger. The rifle felt solid against his shoulder. 2 years of training, 2 years of failure, all coming down to this moment. You've got 10 minutes, Danny, Jake said. I need him to stop moving. He's agitated, keeps pacing, yelling at the hostages. Danny watched, waited. His mathematics were perfect, but he needed the target stationary, even for just 3 seconds. 9 minutes left. 8 minutes. The ISIS fighter kept pacing, kept moving. 7 minutes. Danny's mind wanted to recalculate, to doubt, to second-guess every variable. But he pushed the doubt away. The math was right. He knew it was right. He just needed the shot. 6 minutes left. Then, through his scope, Danny saw the ISIS fighter stop pacing. The man turned to face west, toward Mecca, raised his free hand, praying. For exactly 3 seconds, the target would be stationary. Jake, Danny whispered. He's stopping. I see it. You've got maybe 3 seconds. That's enough. Danny's breathing slowed. His heart rate dropped. The world went silent. 2 years of being calculator. 2 years of 0 kills. 2 years of shame. All of it focused into this single moment. The ISIS fighter stopped moving, faced west, raised his hand. Danny's finger tightened on the trigger. And for the first time in 2 years, Danny Chen didn't hesitate. He pulled the trigger. The M40A5 sniper rifle fired. The recoil pushed Danny's shoulder. The muzzle blast echoed across the rooftop. The 175-grain bullet left the barrel at 2,580 feet per second, over twice the speed of sound. Then came the waiting. At 2,180 meters, the bullet would take approximately 3 seconds to reach the target. 3 seconds where Danny didn't breathe, didn't move, just watched through his scope. The bullet traveled through 2,180 meters of air, fought against gravity, pulling it down 16 meters, fought against wind, pushing it 4 meters left, fought against Earth's rotation, adding tiny corrections for Coriolis and Yevbush effects. All of Danny's calculations, every equation, every variable, every number he'd been mocked for caring about, were now physical reality crossing a mile of space. Time of flight approximately 3 seconds, Jake whispered, watching through the spotting scope. Danny kept his scope on target, watched the ISIS fighter standing still, praying, completely unaware that death was traveling toward him at 2,580 feet per second. 1 second. The bullet was halfway there, had dropped 8 meters, had drifted 2 meters left, still on target according to Danny's calculations. 2 seconds. The civilians around the ISIS fighter were crying, praying, waiting to die. The terrorist's finger was on the detonator. 1 movement and 50 people would be dead. 3 seconds. The bullet arrived. Through Danny's scope, he saw the ISIS fighter's head snap back. The man dropped instantly. The detonator fell from his hand. His body collapsed. Hit. Jake screamed. Danny, you hit him. Headshot. Danny didn't move. Kept his scope on target. Professional. Confirming the kill. The ISIS fighter wasn't moving. The suicide vest hadn't detonated. The hostages were scrambling away from the body, running, alive. All 50 of them. Alive. Because Calculator Chen had finally pulled the trigger. The radio exploded with voices. Confirmed kill. Target down. Hostages are safe. Who took that shot? Corporal Chen, 2,180 meters. Headshot. Target eliminated. Jesus Christ, that was over a mile. Get EOD to that vest now. Hostages are clear. Staff Sergeant Reeves came on the radio, his voice stunned. Chen, did you actually make that shot? Danny's hands were shaking. He set down his rifle carefully, looked at Jake. Jake was staring at him with his mouth open. Danny, you just broke the Marine Corps record. You just made a 2,180-meter kill shot. With hostages, moving target, in combat. The math worked, Danny said quietly. The math worked. Danny, you just made the longest confirmed kill in Marine Corps history. You're a goddamn legend. Danny looked at his data book, at the equations, at the calculations that everyone had mocked him for, the calculations that had just saved 50 lives. Calculator, Danny said softly. They called me Calculator. Yeah, Jake said, laughing now, almost manic with relief. They did, and you just proved them right. You calculated your way to the most impossible shot any of us have ever seen. On the radio, command was already confirming. Corporal Chen, stand by for confirmation. EOD is securing the vest. Hostages are being evacuated. Preliminary assessment. That's a 2,180-meter confirmed kill. 96 meters past the previous record. Danny picked up his radio. Command, this is Chen. One question, sir. Go ahead, Corporal. Is that my first confirmed kill? A pause. Then Danny heard what might have been a laugh. Affirmative, Corporal Chen. That is your first confirmed kill. And it's the longest shot in Marine Corps history. We'll be investigating this for the official record, but initial assessment is you just became a legend. Jake grabbed Danny's shoulder. Your first kill? Danny, most snipers spend their whole career trying to make a shot like that. You made it your first. I had 2 years to prepare, Danny said. 2 years of calculating, studying, learning every variable. 2 years of everyone calling you Calculator and saying you think too much. Yeah. And you just proved that thinking too much is exactly what wins at extreme distance. Danny looked through his scope one more time. At the market square, 2,180 meters away. At the 50 civilians who were alive because mathematics worked. Because physics was reliable. Because calculations mattered. Jake, Danny said, I need to ask you something. Anything, man. Am I a sniper now? Jake looked at him for a long moment. Then he smiled. Danny, you just made the most impossible shot any of us have ever seen. You're not just a sniper. Then what am I? You're Calculator. And that's not an insult anymore. That's a call sign. That's a legend. The platoon compound erupted when Danny and Jake returned. Marines were running toward them, shouting, screaming congratulations. Rodriguez was the first to reach them. The same Marine who'd made jokes about square roots of 0 kills. Chen, holy shit, man. You made that shot? 2,180 meters? Are you kidding me? I'm not kidding, Danny said quietly. That's insane. That's insane. Do you know what you just did? Staff Sergeant Reeves walked up. His expression was unreadable. Danny came to attention. Staff Sergeant. Reeves looked at him for a long moment. Then he extended his hand. Corporal Chen, I owe you an apology. Multiple apologies. I underestimated you. I thought you were just a nerd who couldn't hack it in combat. Danny shook his hand. You weren't wrong, Staff Sergeant. I couldn't hack it. Not until today. No, I was wrong. You were training for a shot like this the whole time. You were learning, calculating, building skills that the rest of us don't have. We were making 800-meter shots and feeling like experts. You were preparing for a shot that's almost 3 times that distance. I had to prove something, Danny said. You proved it. To all of us. Reeves raised his voice so the whole platoon could hear. Gentlemen, Corporal Chen just made the longest confirmed kill in Marine Corps history. 2,180 meters. That's 2,382 yards. Over a mile and a third. In combat conditions. With hostages. Moving target. Headshot. The platoon went silent. Then someone started clapping. Then everyone was clapping. cheering. The Marines who'd mocked him for 2 years were now celebrating him. Rodriguez stepped forward. "Chen, man, I'm sorry. For all the jokes. The calculator stuff. I thought we all thought. You thought I was weak because I was smart," Danny finished. "Yeah, and we were wrong. You're not weak. You're something else, man. You're like a super soldier with a physics degree." Someone else shouted, "Calculator, calculator, calculator." The chant spread through the platoon. But this time it wasn't mockery. It was respect. Jake leaned close to Danny. "How does it feel?" "Weird," Danny admitted. 2 days ago, they were laughing at me. Now they're cheering. That's the military, brother. Results talk. And you just delivered the result of a lifetime." An officer approached. "Captain Williams, the company commander. Corporal Chen, I need you to write a detailed report on that shot. Every calculation, every variable. This will be studied at sniper schools for the next decade." "Yes, sir. Also, I'm recommending you for a medal. Probably Bronze Star with Valor. You saved 50 civilian lives with one shot. That's exceptional. Sir, I just did my job. Your job was supposed to be impossible. The shot you made violates everything we thought we knew about maximum effective range for sniper systems. You expanded the entire understanding of what's possible." That night, Danny sat in his bunk writing his report. The mathematics, the calculations, every variable explained in detail. Rodriguez sat down next to him. "Chen, can I ask you something?" "Sure. Why'd you join the Marines? You had MIT degree. Could have made a fortune in tech." Danny looked at him. "Because my whole life, people assumed I was weak because I was smart. Asian kid, book nerd. Everyone expected me to be a software engineer or a doctor, never a warrior. And you wanted to prove them wrong. I wanted to prove to myself that smart and tough aren't opposites, that you can be both." Rodriguez nodded slowly. "Did you prove it?" Danny thought about the 2 years of 0 kills. The shame, the mockery, the nickname calculator used as an insult. Then he thought about today, about 50 lives saved, about mathematics winning, about proving that intelligence was a weapon as powerful as any rifle. "Yeah," Danny said, "I think I did." 3 days later, command made it official. Corporal Danny Chen, United States Marine Corps Scout Sniper, had made a confirmed kill at 2,180 meters, making it the longest confirmed kill shot in Marine Corps history, breaking the previous record by 96 meters. The story spread fast, first through their battalion, then through the division, then through the entire Marine Corps. Calculator Chen, the MIT graduate, the sniper with 0 kills, who'd made the most impossible shot anyone had ever seen. Military blogs picked it up, then news outlets. Then it went international. Marine sniper makes record-breaking 2,180-meter kill shot to save hostages. MIT graduate turned Marine breaks Corps record. Corporal Calculator Chen, the sniper who proved math matters. Danny's parents called him on the satellite phone, crying, "Danny, we see news. You are hero. You save people. I just did my job, Mom. We are so proud. Your father, he cry when he see STORİE. We tell everyone at restaurant, our son is hero Marine. Mom, I thought you were upset I joined the Marines instead of taking the Google job." His mother's voice softened. "We were scared, Danny. Scared you would die. But now we understand. You are warrior and scholar. Both. You prove you can be both." That meant more to Danny than any medal. A week later, at a battalion ceremony, Danny received the Bronze Star with Valor device. Staff Sergeant Reeves pinned it to his chest. Corporal Chen, for exceptionally valorous actions in the face of the enemy, resulting in the preservation of 50 civilian lives through extraordinary marksmanship. You are awarded the Bronze Star with Valor. Your shot will be studied and remembered for generations. The battalion applauded. But what Danny remembered most was after the ceremony, when the battalion commander pulled him aside. "Corporal Chen, I've been a Marine for 23 years. I've seen a lot of incredible shots. But yours was different." "How so, sir?" "Because it proved something that a lot of us had forgotten. We train Marines to be warriors. Tough, aggressive, instinctive. And that's important. But you reminded us that intelligence is a weapon too. That thinking isn't weakness. That sometimes the smartest Marine in the room is also the most dangerous. The commander smiled. Keep being calculator, Chen. The Corps needs more Marines like you. Danny Chen served 3 more years in the Marine Corps. Made 6 more confirmed kills, all at extreme distance, all requiring complex mathematics. But none of them were as far as that first one. None of them carried the weight of 50 lives. None of them meant what that 2,180-meter shot had meant. When Danny left the Marines at age 28, he received offers from every defense contractor and tech company in America. Instead, he went back to school, got his PhD in physics from MIT, wrote his dissertation on applied ballistics at extreme distance, a mathematical analysis. Now he teaches at Quantico, at the Marine Corps Scout Sniper School, teaching young Marines that intelligence and toughness aren't opposites, that mathematics matters, that thinking isn't weakness, and that sometimes the nerd everyone mocks becomes the hero everyone needs. On his office wall at Quantico, Danny keeps 3 things: his Bronze Star with Valor, his data book from that day in Mosul with all his calculations, and a sign that reads, Calculator. Not an insult anymore, a badge of honor, because Corporal Danny Chen proved what a lot of people forget. Warriors come in all forms. And sometimes, the deadliest weapon on the battlefield isn't the rifle. It's the mind behind it. Intelligence is not weakness. Being too smart is never a disadvantage. And the people who mock you for thinking too much often become the same people who depend on you when thinking is what saves lives. Danny Chen's story teaches us that your greatest weakness can become your greatest strength. Being different doesn't make you less, it makes you unique. Mathematics and courage aren't opposites, they're partners. The shot you've been preparing for will come. Mockery becomes respect when you prove your worth. To everyone who's been called nerd, geek, too smart, overthinking, Danny Chen was all those things. And he made the most impossible shot in Marine Corps history because of it, not despite it. Your intelligence is a weapon. Use it. If this story moved you, salute in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to Army Story for more military stories that honor warriors of all types, tough, smart, and everything in between. To the Marines, Semper Fi. To the smart kids who were told they weren't tough, you are. Prove it. Until next time, stay strong, stay smart, and remember, thinking isn't weakness. It's victory. Directed brain.